The midday sun beat down on the community garden, but 72-year-old Marcus didn't seem to notice. He wiped the sweat from his brow, his hands moving with a familiar grace through the soil. Most men his age were enjoying retirement, but Marcus couldn't imagine a day away from this place. Old Mrs. Chen from apartment for B shuffled past, her walker clicking on the pavement. "You worked hard, Marcus," she called out. "Who's going to take care of you?" Marcus just smiled, carefully pruning a rosebush. "I don't do it for a reward, Mrs. Chen," he replied. "I do it because these flowers make people smile on their way to work. That's enough for me." Since his wife passed away 5 years ago, Marcus had lived alone. His small pension was just enough for rent and groceries, but he never complained. Every single morning, at the crack of dawn, he'd arrive at this neglected patch of land between two apartment buildings and get to work. What was once a forgotten dump site had transformed into a neighborhood treasure. He grew tomatoes for families struggling to afford fresh produce, flowers for anyone who needed a little brightness, and he built a bench where lonely souls could sit and find peace among the beauty. The neighborhood knew Marcus well. He was the one who fixed Mrs. Chen's leaky faucet when she couldn't afford a plumber. He was the one who patiently tutored the Rodriguez children in math after school. He always had a moment to listen, an ear to lend, even when his own cupboards were often bare. He was the quiet, steady heart of their community. But one crisp October morning, that heart was broken. Marcus arrived to find the garden in ruins. Plants were trampled, the bench he'd built was smashed, and ugly graffiti was scrawled across the little shed where he kept his tools. His spirit sank. But the worst blow was a letter taped to the shed door. The city was selling the lot to a developer. In 30 days, everything, the tomatoes, the roses, the memories, would be bulldozed to make way for a parking structure. Marcus sat down on the splintered remains of his bench, feeling every one of his 72 years. What was he supposed to do? Fight? He had no money for lawyers, no connections at City Hall. Maybe Mrs. Chen was right. Maybe it was finally time to stop giving so much of himself. His knees ached, his savings were gone, and now, even this small piece of purpose was being ripped away from him. It felt hopeless, but as he sat there, surrounded by the wreckage, a small, defiant flame flickered inside him. He had spent his whole life believing that kindness mattered. That small, unseen acts of love eventually added up to something real and meaningful. If he gave up now, what had it all been for? He slowly pushed himself to his feet, his decision made. If he only had 30 days, he was going to make every single one of them count. That afternoon, as he was trying to salvage what he could, a young woman named Jade appeared. She was a journalist for the local paper, and she'd been assigned to cover the city's land deal. "I've been watching you for weeks," she admitted, looking around at the garden. "Everyone in this neighborhood has a story about you, about your kindness. I think this is about more than just a piece of land. It's about what you've built here." And just like that, the fight was on. Word of the garden's fate spread like wildfire. The very people Marcus had helped for years without a second thought began to show up. Mrs. Chen, with a walker and fierce determination, organized a petition drive, going door to door. The Rodriguez family, tech-savvy and grateful, launched a social media campaign with photos of the beautiful garden and stories of Marcus's generosity. Even teenagers Marcus had never met started arriving in groups, scrubbing the graffiti off the shed and cleaning up the vandalism, inspired by their parents' stories about the old man who never asked for anything in return. Jade's article was published, and it went viral. The headline read, "The Gardener of Kindness, One Man's Legacy, One City's Shame." Local TV stations picked up the story. Soon, people from all over the city were visiting the garden, leaving flowers, signing a huge banner that read "Save the Garden," and offering words of support. The small, forgotten plot of land had become a symbol of hope. The movement culminated at a packed city council meeting. Marcus, a man who preferred the quiet company of his plants, stood nervously at the podium. His voice shook at first, but then it grew strong, ringing with conviction. "I'm not asking you to save this garden for me," he said, his eyes scanning the room. "I'm asking you to save what it represents, the idea that we take care of each other, that community matters more than convenience, The council members seemed moved. The crowd erupted in applause, but the developer had powerful friends and the final vote was postponed. With only 1 week left until the deadline, the fight seemed to be slipping away. The developer, trying to end the public relations nightmare, made Marcus a private offer, a significant sum of money to walk away and let the story die. That night, exhausted and feeling defeated, Marcus almost accepted. He couldn't sleep, haunted by the thought of taking the money. It felt like betraying every tomato he'd ever grown, every child he'd ever helped, everything he believed in. On the 28th day, the city council held their final vote. The deal went through. The developer had won. Marcus returned to the garden one last time to say goodbye. He sat on the repaired bench as the sun began to set, the colors painting the sky. Surrounded by the flowers he had so lovingly nurtured, he finally let himself weep. Not for himself, but for the loss of this small sanctuary, this place of peace that would soon be nothing but concrete and painted lines. Was any of it worth it? He whispered to the evening air. Did any of my kindness actually matter in the end? He felt a profound emptiness, a lifetime of giving culminating in this single, devastating loss. Just then, as darkness began to fall, Jade found him. "Marcus," she said softly, placing a hand on his shoulder. "There's something you need to see." She led him away from the garden towards the local community center. As they got closer, he could hear a low hum of voices. She opened the doors and Marcus stopped in his tracks, speechless. The hall was filled with hundreds of his neighbors. People from every corner of the community had gathered. They had pulled their small donations from neighbors, larger ones from people across the city who had seen the news. They had raised enough. They had bought the lot themselves. Rodriguez stepped forward, his eyes filled with tears. "You gave us tomatoes when we were hungry," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "You gave my children confidence. You gave all of us hope." Mrs. Chen bustled forward, waving a set of papers. "The deed will be in the community's name," she announced proudly. "The garden is saved, Marcus. It's saved because you saved us first in 100 small ways every single day." Spring arrived and the garden bloomed more beautifully than ever before. Marcus still worked there every morning, but now he was never alone. The whole neighborhood tended it together, men, women, and children, all with their hands in the soil. It had become a living monument to a simple truth, that kindness, when planted like a seed, grows into something far greater than one person could ever imagine. And as he looked around at the smiling faces, Marcus finally understood. He hadn't just been growing a garden all these years, he had grown a community, and that was the greatest reward of all. Thank you for watching. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe for more content that celebrates the good in the world. See you next time.